Hi all, thanks for coming back and clicking on my video. Appreciate you spending the time and learning about my perspectives here. I feel pretty called today to talk about a subject that's very important to me, and it's a little taboo in our society today, I think through a misunderstanding. But the subject I like to talk about is Jesus. Now, before we get started, I want to recognize and honor everyone's perspective on this subject. I would like to bring my perspective forward in service and love to humanity. So thank you. The wide range of perspectives on Jesus go from an all-in belief he is the one and only Savior. Through faith in him and acceptance in your heart, you can be saved. And on the other end, some people have completely dismissed Jesus and his teachings and may even be mad at him for their life situation. I believe all perspectives are valid, so there is no judgment here, as the perspectives gained by an individual on a subject is true to them and their life experience. However, I believe the answer here lies somewhere in the middle of these two perspectives. In reality, I believe there can be some truth, and there is truth in every perspective. So how can this be? So I believe Jesus did walk the earth, and that he was a great teacher. He cared and loved for humanity deeply, and I believe he still does to this day. I believe he was born into a human body with the same restrictions as the rest of us. However, he was unique, and I'll explain why. As I mentioned in my previous video, our caretakers and upbringing have a massive effect on our lives and ability to find our true path. If you research Jesus' life, there's a significant amount of evidence he was born into a group of people called the Essenes. They were the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you've heard of them. The Essenes were a group of people that lived in isolation due to fear of prosecution of their beliefs. They had a unique set of perspectives that differed from the world at that time, which included honoring and seeing all women as equals, honoring and respecting animals. They condemned animal sacrifices when that was very common at the time. They lived in a way to do minimal harm and impact on others, their environment, and they loved others as themselves. I believe this was the launching pad in Jesus' life and started his trajectory into the work and passion he shared with the world. Yeah. So, having said this, I also believe, for lack of a better way to put it, that Jesus was born a regular guy with a unique upbringing, but more so had the amazing ability to stand in his truth, in his light, in his highest vibration and purpose. Now, here's what is amazing about this idea to me. If Jesus was born special or a god with those type of abilities, then the things he accomplished in a way are almost to be expected. He was born with a different set of tools. He could do different things, so he did those different things, right? And yes, we're grateful for that, but the story isn't so grand as it seems when you think of it from that perspective. We're given this narrative that he was different, born a virgin, certain abilities that are just out of our capabilities, and now we must worship him and ask him to save us and forgive us for our sins. Now, let's take a different perspective. Let's consider that Jesus was just born a regular guy that became the man we know today as Jesus. In my opinion, ultimate hero's journey from an innocent, helpless child, just like the rest of us. However, he uniquely became a legend known worldwide, spanning thousands of years and continuing to this day. And really, he had a very simple message of love and forgiveness and acceptance. To me, that is so much more grand and spectacular and provides so much more hope for the everyday, regular dude. This is the true journey of becoming a hero. Right from innocent child all the way up to King of Kings, let's say. And that is spectacular. That is something worth studying. That is something worth spending time on. So, from this perspective, I'd like to bring forward the idea that Jesus is an example of what can be achieved by every human when we continually choose love and choose to act that out in our reality. All the hints are there. Maybe we've just been putting limits on what we believe is possible. Now, let's talk about states of being. As we've learned from my previous video called Illuminating the Mysteries of True Healing, I've discussed the evidence, or I've gave and discussed the evidence to the fact that you make yourself sick, but that you can also heal yourself through your state of being, your perspectives and emotions. Well, if that is true and we can heal ourselves through our state of being, is it possible that we could take that to the next level? And what would that look like? Holding a vibration so high, elevating your perspective to a position that seems impossible, how do we know how our bodies will react to that type of perspective and emotion? What I'm saying is, if we can go from a place of limited perspective and emotions which cause disease, to only upgrade our perspective and emotional intelligence to become healthy, then what could happen if we keep going and continue to upgrade our consciousness and perspectives and emotional intelligence from there? I believe the best example of what is possible is Jesus' story, the hero's journey we are all here to discover. A prime example of Jesus' perspective and emotional intelligence on full display for all to witness was when he said these famous words while he was dragging his cross to his own crucifixion. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Jesus represents the ideal, the goal, what we are all here to achieve, the highest perspective and emotional intelligence possible, and once achieved from the lower perspective of others, the knowledge and events being carried out in reality around this individual will be incomprehensible to them, thus resulting in the idea of a God. Okay, let's go into some more evidence. I'd like to discuss Jesus' teachings on forgiveness and judgment or non-judgment, because they're my personal favorites, and I believe some of his most profound teachings. And I also believe that they are not fully understood to this day. So let me go into the subject. Many of us continue to study and attempt to interpret and practice forgiveness and non-judgment and Jesus' teaching to this day. However, most people have a basic understanding on the subject. Let me explain. The highest and most true perspective of forgiveness is to forgive oneself for one's own misperceptions of others, judgment of others, thus creating their own hell-like consciousness, and when we do this collectively, creates a hell-like state in our reality. When others hurt us, we think this requires forgiveness. This is where the misperception starts, as most people believe forgiveness means to forgive others for what they have done to you. This is actually a misunderstanding and an elementary level understanding of the truth, and here's why. Because what we judge in others is what we judge in ourselves. Therefore, your judgment on another is only an illusion, a misperception. You have created a judgmental thought projection onto that individual, and you must forgive yourself for that misperception to ultimately find freedom, peace, and non-judgment within. Now, I'd say that's a fairly radical shift in perspective on forgiveness and judgment. So I'd like to say that one more time. just to give you the opportunity to think about it one more time. What we judge in others is what we judge in ourselves. Therefore, your judgment on another is only an illusion, a misperception. You have created a judgmental thought projection onto that individual, and you must forgive yourself for that misperception to ultimately find freedom, peace, and non-judgment within. Now, let me explain that. If you perceive that someone is acting irrationally, that individual is only doing so due to a lack of love of themselves and are playing it out in physical reality. To then judge or condemn that person for their actions only confirms the misperception of lack of love of oneself. Therefore, by judging, you are confirming the other individual's beliefs and the lack of love of themselves, making themselves guilty and lowering their consciousness, state of being, emotional intelligence, resulting in the continuation of their irrational behavior. The highest truth here would be to demonstrate love as a response when someone's acting irrationally. And when love is acted out in physical reality, true healing can be achieved. What I'm trying to say is the individual that's having the irrational behavior may see their gives them the opportunity to see their misperception when reflected love back to them. And the illusion can be lifted and the behavior dissolves. To say it in another way, when love is demonstrated as a response, it gives the individuals the opportunity to see they were only acting irrationally due to a reactionary response to unhealed or disharmonious emotions and a lack of love within. Now, they have the opportunity, you've given them the opportunity expressing love, to shift their perspective towards love where more information, perspectives, and solutions exist. I believe Jesus demonstrated love as his response countless times during his journey, giving others the opportunity to heal themselves. Unfortunately, many of us are unaware of this. When we judge others, it causes our vibration to fall, our emotional intelligence to lessen, our perspectives to narrow, thus lowering our vibration, state of being, and keeping us in a hell-like consciousness and reality. Any response other than love is a deviation from the truth. And this is the true lesson that Jesus was attempting to demonstrate and teach us. So I'd like to give you a couple thought experiments as we kind of marinate on this idea. It's a little heavy and it takes on a little more responsibility to the individual. But let's think about it in a different way here. So here's a couple thought experiments to kind of sift through. So what if we took the perspectives of Jesus and acted them out in reality? What if we walked like him, talked like him, thought like him, and acted like him? What would truly be the difference between yourself and Jesus? And what do you think would happen if you did this in your reality? Now, here's another thought experiment. What if you treated everyone else as if they were Jesus in disguise? Do you think you would treat others differently? And the last one is, what if all 8 billion people on this planet, 8 billion plus, took this same perspective of Jesus and acted it out in reality? What do you think the world would look like? For me, I think that would be the closest version of heaven that I can envision, but I'll leave that to you guys. Let's continue. There's a lot to uncover and study on Jesus' life, So I'm going to let some of this stuff marinate a little bit, and I'd just like to share one final closing thought on this subject for now. I believe Jesus' greatest and highest teachings was not to worship him in the hopes of being saved and going to heaven when you die. It was that we are his equal, his brothers and sisters, and thus we are capable of achieving his perspective, his emotional intelligence, and experiencing your own version of heaven. It's available now through your own consciousness. It's important to note that Jesus didn't sit in an ivory tower or make fantastical claims. He walked amongst the people and demonstrated his love, a higher perspective and emotional intelligence, and never asked anything of his followers in return. I believe he was trying to heal the world. He knew the only true path to healing is love and understanding of oneself and others. When we make the decision to fully love, accept, and understand ourselves and others, and act this out in reality, I believe we will be in heaven. I believe we can honor the story of Jesus by understanding and living and acting out Jesus' perspectives in our physical reality. Through a Christ-like consciousness, we can become the hero of our own journey. I believe that is the path of every individual on earth, whether they realize it or not. And therefore, in a way, we are all Jesus in disguise, and we don't even know it. All the people in your life are also Jesus in disguise, but they have forgotten and are trying to remember. Love you all. Have a great day.